And we, the people, we're the ones that count.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because Castro's his dad.
I don't think we really can hang on till the next election. Something has to happen now.
My moral grounding is that there is a highest good.
Right? They have a right to believe in what they want to believe in.
Hello, everyone. I'm here with Chris. He's a good friend of mine. He's a man of many skills and trades and background, and he's been a long-haul trucker. How you doing?
Well, as I can be, considering what's going on in this country right now and doing what I ought to, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a West Coast thing, right? Doing what you ought to.
All right. You're very concerned about the economic situation and
Yeah, who isn't? You know, it's like a lot of people are in a lot of trouble there, and I'm one of them too, right? So
yeah.
And it doesn't need to be this way, and it didn't have to be this way. So I've got some strong opinions as to why, and it's shared by, hundreds of people that I've talked to like that. We're all in the same boat.
What do you think's going on?
It's basically the misguided practices of the government in place at all levels, using world events as excuses to tax the shit out of us at everywhere you can see. The price of fuel right now to move our products to market, right? The wages are not being paid sometimes like that there, and the wages are just not in balance with the cost of living anywhere in the country. So, you can see everywhere you turn the effects of this, the results of this, right? People out in the street that may have been at one point in time there, they may have had homes, they may have had lives, and they may have been functioning, contributing members of society. In my opinion, it's the policies of those, I'm going to say a lot of them are self-serving politicians that got into positions of power, and they have the power to create policies there of a monetary consequence there that has no connection to reality for the people that they're supposed to be serving, right? It's all about them, not about us. And we, the people, we're the ones that count, because we make this country move, and we make this country work, and we make this country proud. At least we used to. Now it's like they're running amok, right? So, that's my opinion, but it's also that of just about everybody I talk to, and there are hundreds of them, especially in the past couple of years.
So what do you think's gone wrong?
The greed factor, the corruption, the greed factor, the self-serving agendas of politicians that we entrusted into power through the electoral process at every level of our society. And once they get in, they get the disease. It's like, okay, I'm here now. I just need to put in 6 years before I get my pension. It comes out of general revenue from the taxpayers, and we can do what we want. And we'll make it sound good to the people so that they don't call us out on it if it's our own pet project, or, we think this is the best thing for the people, or we think this is the best thing for the country. They're completely out of touch. They just have no idea what the heck their policies are doing to the vast majority of the population there. And then you bring in, the concept of all these people that have, by one way or another, come to this country like that in search of a better life because their countries are no better off, right? They get told, oh, come to Canada, it's this great country like that. They get here and they're sorely disappointed there, and there's millions of them there. Somebody wasn't thinking about the proportionate impact bringing in X number of, allowing X number of students to come in here on student visas, or immigrants to come in here, or refugees to come in. We didn't have the infrastructure to support them in the first place. It wasn't well designed, right? And so now it's a dilemma, and everybody's seeing it everywhere. That's just one thing. There's many problems in this society, in this country right now, and other countries too, right? United States as well. It's interesting because it's a global phenomenon. So where's the leadership? Who's standing out? Who's saying, this is not right, that's in a position of power? Nobody. Maybe, Pierre Poilievre. He's out there using that, as he goes across the country saying, I'm going to make things better. But, most politicians say that. But I think that, Pierre's got a good message. Donald Trump has a good message. And that's in my opinion, right? And it's up to the people to realize that the information that we're being fed, a lot of it's fear porn. It's coming from all different sources that don't have our best interests. They don't want to tell us the truth of what's really happening. And some of them know it, right? But then you've got, people like some politicians out there that do have the best interests of their citizens at heart. They get caught up in the disease, or they get caught up in the control of their leadership, or groups of them, right? Say you will act this way because you're a member of this party, or you're a member of this contingent, or we gave you this particular file or this particular portfolio to work on, like that. Who out there right now is really making an effort to address the concerns of the ordinary citizen in this country? Who can you name that can actually be held to that position at this point when we need it? We need someone to look out for us, because we're the ones that put them there in the first place, right? They're supposed to be working for us, not we working for them. That's the way this country originated. That's the way the United States originated too. Is we the people, by the people, for the people.
Yeah.
So everything's just gone completely crazy. Now you're bringing all these special interests that are completely bizarre and antithetical to humanity. That are just having a field day with this instability and this chaos in our societies, right? Free and democratic societies, they're being permeated by corruption and evil and pure bullshit.
Like the transgender stuff and the DEI.
Yeah, don't get me going on that. I mean, people have a right to, love who they want to love, type thing there, but to go ahead and force something that's not exactly natural on others that are
to children,
just children especially, they're innocent, right? And now they're having this crap forced down their throats there, and they're doing it by very devious and dirty means through the school board associations. Drag queen story hour.
That's sick.
That's fucking beyond sick. Excuse my French, in English, whatever. How do I say sorry in French? Au secours. It's concerning, I mean, I've got grandkids, I've got a daughter, I've got friends that have kids, I got friends that have grandkids. I've got people that are in my age that are close to retirement. They're not sure how they can hang on for even another few months because of the financial aspect of all this destruction. There's all the policies of the governments and all that, and the excuses they put out there, right? And then to allow all this other bizarre stuff to come in there and happen. This is a real problem here, and people need to wake up, right? People need to wake the hell up, and do something about it, right? And I don't mean civil disobedience. I don't mean violence. I don't mean anything like that. I'm not making any reference to that effect. But how about I do not comply? Let's do not cooperate with this. Like, we've got to rethink our strategies here. They're not listening to us. We need to make them listen to us somehow, some way, and put a stop to this. And I don't think, as a Canadian citizen born and raised, I don't think we really can hang on till the next election. Something has to happen now. I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole,
We have a really unpopular leader.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything for us. I mean, we have 1 or 2. I mean, there's Canadians across this country right now and other provinces like that will say the same thing about their leadership, right? The amazing thing about the internet, and computers and this kind of a setup like that, it's a way of reaching to other people to try and get them to come on board. It's a means of communication, and it's a means of networking, right? And it's not being used to its fullest capacity, right? It's being used for other reasons, or for the wrong reasons in some cases there. But for righteous reasons like that, we need to network out something like this there so we can have other people, express their concerns as well and see if it matches ours, right? And that way you build momentum, you build a common ground, like the Freedom Convoy did. It united a whole bunch of people, like thousands, tens of thousands.
That was great.
Had an impact on the world.
Oh, yeah.
And the positive impact that has now got a lot more people starting to see and wake up to realize what's really happening. So now you've got the competition between good versus evil that's taken hold, but it's not happening fast enough because it's obvious that we're running out of time in some cases, right?
Yeah.
But there is hope. How that's going to unfold, I don't know. When is it going to unfold? I don't know. Does somebody else out there know? What are we doing about it? Sit and bitch and complain? All the talk shows I've ever listened to like that, all over the Canada, the United States there when I was in truck, doing my trucking and stuff, all the people I met, people I talked to, Talk, 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 talk. Action speaks louder than words, but it has to be the right action. It has to be effective. It has to be to the point. There's talk about our government is in turmoil right now, well, as it should be. So is that going to turn into somebody's going to finally decide to pull the rug out from under the feet of the government there, and we're going to completely restructure our system, the electoral system, the parliamentary system, the legal system, our social systems, so that the people can actually function and support a good system that actually works for everybody, instead of it being top heavy, tyrannical sometimes, oppressive.
It needs to be checked.
I'll say.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm one of probably 3/4 of the population of this country that'll say the same thing if they're being righteous in their truth. So let's get us all together, and it's like, well, let's talk about it. What do you think? What do you think out there?
All right. Let's get into more of some of the details of what's happening with the economy and with everyday people.
Where do you want me to go from that? I got, insights and opinions on that. Trucking business?
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely know something about that.
Yeah.
It is not what it used to be. It is not like it was in the days of Jerry Reed and Burt Reynolds and C.W. McCall, Convoy. Good old hit song from the 70s, I guess. It's not like it was. It used to be a really honorable occupation and necessary to the functioning of the economy. It's been heavily regulated. At one time, it wasn't really, other than just typical law enforcement and responsibilities type thing that we had to adhere to way back when. I mean, I've been licensed since 1987 as a Class 1 driver. And probably half of the time between then and now, I've been on the road one form or another, right? A lot of it long haul through Canada and the United States, especially the United States. But the harassment and the disrespect that truckers go through is palpable. And on the other hand, you get a lot of people and organizations that really respect what we do, and what we go through as far as, putting up with the frustration of traffic jams and time schedules and trying to meet delivery dates and be on time and operate under what's called hours of service there, which used to be paper. Now it's all digital, down to the second, right? And when you've got natural factors that get in the way of you being able to do your job, it's fine like it used to be, where you can just sit there and drive and put your music on and trip along like that. And it's instinct to operate 80,000 pounds of truck and commodities like that down the road. And then, as long as you're awake and, if you have to all of a sudden respond to a quick diversion in traffic or avoiding a situation of some sort like that, you need to be on your game, right? You need to know exactly. There's no chances for mistakes. You need to know how to avoid a situation like that. Yeah, and you better be ready for it, because it does happen, especially with more stupid drivers on the road. People that especially with cell phones, like, my goodness, I'm driving down the interstate system like that, and I can look down and see somebody driving by and they got a cell phone on their lap, beep, 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 beep. I'm glad there's laws about that, because I've seen the end result, right? Cars completely smashed up, knowing that the people that were inside like that got turned into a McDonald's fodder, right? You see that stuff. Truckers see that stuff. All of us, all of us that have been out there, we see this stuff from time to time. It's real. People that sit at home there and going about their lives that are not in that industry don't really know what goes on out there, in the bad side of things. But the good side of it, it's an honorable profession. It used to be, not anymore. But every single solitary thing in your house or in your business or anywhere came to that location where it finally finds its resting place for purposes, useful purposes, came by truck. So what happened to the respect that is due to the truckers out there? Sure as heck's not coming from the government. They just want to regulate the shit out of it and bring the nice new technology in like that makes it even more difficult for us to do our jobs. But they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Yeah, let's regulate the hell out of the industry like that. Let's tell you when you can fall asleep type thing. Well, you got to maximize your driving time like that based on hours of service, and take it to the limit because the companies expect you to do so, and your paycheck depends on it as well, right? If you can't meet that, well, you lose income. But people forget that when a driver's away for a week or two at a time from his family and his friends and his girlfriends and boyfriends and whatever like that, then like that, that's like you accept that as part of the job description like that. And when you get your time off like that, then you make up for it, right? But you're locked into, what is it? what's a good word for it there? You're contained. You know, your freedoms are limited except for the freedom that you're immediately surrounded by. Your truck, your bed, sleep in there. Yeah, you can go into any truck stop and get a nice meal and pull over, go to sleep when you need to. That's a certain amount of freedom there, but you don't have the freedom of association with people, your family, whatever. Because you're doing a good, honorable service like that. You're driving and taking a product from one place to another, from the manufacturer or distribution center to where it's going to go to make people's lives more comfortable.
Why do you think it was the truckers that led the freedom movement?
One of the benefits of being a truck driver is you've got a lot of time on your hands there, and you can either listen to music or you can listen to, well, there's weren't so much podcasts back then like that, but talk radio was what kept me going. It passed the hours like crazy, listening to very intelligent people discussing matters, subject matter that is of interest to people, and yeah, there's a lot of intelligence out there, and truck drivers in general, especially of my generation, they're become very intelligent there because they've got time to listen and they've got time to be immersed in something that it might be of concern to them, or truckers are generally, right across the board, very patriotic individuals, male or female, right? Because we've got plenty of time to appreciate this great land that we are blessed to live in, right? We see it, and we want to preserve it. We're part of it.
And they stood up against the mandates, the mandated vaccines.
Yeah, that cost me my job. Yeah, that was, when they brought those mandates in, one of the very first targets that a lot of people don't know, and the Freedom Convoy did expose this, that's a good thing, that they hit us first. We went from being essential services and respected to all of a sudden, you can't cross the border unless you get a vaccine. Well, these vaccines, now we know, are pretty sketchy. A lot of people got hurt by those vaccines. I had the foresight of thinking, and because first of all, they're saying, well, it causes blood clot issues. I had a blood clot just because I wasn't living a very good lifestyle there for a while there. And so therefore, I wasn't going to take a vaccine when it's already out there. Right at the time the pandemic came in there, that you need to take a vaccine to go across the border, right? No, I'm not going to do that. And I talked to my doctor about it. And the doctor said, I can't put this in writing, but you had a blood clot before. I don't know. I would just be very careful, wear your mask and whatever. And I said, yeah, but I can't cross the border because they're going to make this a prohibitive entry to us, right? You're going to stop us from going across there if we don't have a vaccine. It's fine to wear a mask. And for a little while when the pandemic first came in, we were allowed to cross the border going into the United States. But coming back, Canadian drivers with Canadian trucks, coming back into Canada, not unless you have a vaccine. Seeing my dad for the last time, I drove all the way from Nanaimo, BC, all the way out to Toronto, Ontario to go see my dad in a home there because I was told that he might not make it through Christmas. And I got there 1 hour into Christmas Day. And I finally got to see him about not quite a week into January. And I had to stand outside and see him through a window because they wouldn't let me in. And it mattered not that I am his firstborn son.
That's insane.
And I drove down there because I couldn't fly. Well, because you couldn't get on a plane if you didn't have a vaccine. I would have worn a mask. I mean, believe me, I had all kinds of gear with me like that there for, wearing a mask, full gear and all that in the event that I was going to be somewhere where I had to. Thank goodness to some of my friends in the medical community gave me what I needed just in case, right? But I was by myself in a car. I would have been by myself in a truck if I was driving across Canada, right? But that was it. Anyways, so I'm back into Saskatchewan, and I'm coming back home, and I saw the first few pickup trucks and a couple semis there with flags on it and banners and stuff like that. And I'm going, what the heck is this? And then it made sense of the little conversation I had with a couple of truck drivers in Ontario at a Flying J Travel Plaza. Said there's going to be a convoy. And I said, yeah, I've heard that before. We've been hearing that for years in the States, right? Because a lot of drivers in the industry is pissed off at the disrespect that we go through as drivers. Shippers and receivers are not honoring delivery schedules. Yeah, we're told to make the delivery time the way it's told to us, right? And then we sit there and wait, and we don't get paid for sitting there doing nothing. You get paid for the driving and the miles, that you drive. We can go off on a tangent on that there, but it's a problem. Has been a problem forever. Any truck driver out there that knows what I'm talking about knows exactly what I'm talking about, and they'll back that up. So I come across Saskatchewan, into Manitoba, into Alberta, or Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Stop to see my daughter, my friends, whatever like that there, and carry on, come back to Nanaimo. By the time I got into Alberta, there was a lot more trucks and flatbeds and cars and the odd camper in here with banners all. And I started thinking that what those drivers said at the Flying J at Travel Plaza was true. It's like, really? And when I got home, 19th of January, I think it was, it's like all of a sudden now it's becoming a news item. I was like, there's a convoy being created there, protesting the mandates, protesting. I'm going, really? 3 years ago, when I was wondering what is going to happen to a lot of us here that were dependent on the jobs that we had like that, especially truck drivers, essential services, honorable, respected people, right? Yeah. It was a time of a wake-up call, I guess. I'm reliving some of those times right now, just talking to you about it, right?
Yeah.
I've talked to many drivers since then too, right? And we're all the same. I got a couple of friends right now, right here in town, and they're on the road, and everybody's been affected by this one way or the other. Some of them have been in exactly the same situation, so they're here. Other ones are in Alberta, they're just local, right? So much for going south anymore. You wonder why the price of groceries are so high? Talk to a truck driver. Anyone, pick one. Especially one from my generation. Yeah, they'll tell you why. And is it really necessary? No. Because all those entities have capitalized on this, right? Because it's major.
A lot of money was made.
A lot more money.
By
the price of fuel's through the roof there.
Well, the vaccines made a ton of money.
Vaccines made a ton of money there, and the price of fuel there, whatever reasons, excuses. I mean, does it make any sense that we're paying damn near $2 a liter here in Canada, where we've got the third largest oil reserves in the world? Duh. What's wrong with this picture, right? Does it make any sense that the electrical grid is being compromised right now because they want us all to go into electric vehicles and the infrastructure is not even there for what we need now? That's being talked about on conventional media, like pick it, CBC, CTV, Global in the States, CNN, they're all talking about the power grid is not set up for the influx of electric vehicles. Solar and wind, I'm trained in solar and wind. I understand that technology too. I've dabbled with it, in my past as well. It's not the answer, but a combination of everything is. But the leadership's not zeroing in on what is required to sustain the lifestyle that they've set us up to have and then tried to take away.
They're trying to take it away.
Exactly.
And it's all related to the climate scam.
Climate scam.
Climate change.
Climate change is real. It's real.
Climate change.
But what they say is causing it is not.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's any common sense, intelligent person can figure that one out. There's enough information out there on this beautiful thing called the internet there versus the modified media that comes across with a narrative that somebody put onto their...
But the idea that it's going to be bad for the climate to continue to warm is nuts. Life thrives when the climate's hot. It's a cycle. We've seen it many times before. The amount of carbon in the atmosphere right now is quite low compared to past times.
And there's carbon sinks all over the place too, right? Natural carbon sinks. I saw something just not that long ago on the net there about around the southwestern quadrant around James Bay and Hudson Bay. There's a huge bog there that actually is a carbon sink, and it's extremely large. And carbon's a natural occurring element, right? What is it, second, third on the periodic table? It's a natural element, right? I think that the mass media globally there gets the definition mixed up. This is my opinion, and maybe I'm uneducated on this, but gets the definition of greenhouse gases mixed up with carbon going into the atmosphere. Cars and trucks on the road all over the world, especially in Western countries that are civilized and moving, like I said, I was a trucker. Versus all the airplanes that are in the air at any given time, versus volcanoes that are actually erupting all over the place like that. I mean, I've been on Mount Etna in Italy like that in 2011. I went up there, right? That's an active volcano. They're active now, but there's many of those. They're putting all kinds of gases into the atmosphere, methanes and polycarbons and whatever stuff that's made from the processing of minerals off the earth. But a lot of that's been going on for centuries, long before civilization took over the earth, right? And there were cycles.
Well, that's what I mean. The carbon in the atmosphere changes naturally.
Yeah, it does naturally, right? Now, I'm not going to say that we're not contributing in some way.
I think it's a small contribution,
but it's a very minuscule one. It does not justify the
tyrannical policies.
The mantra that the governments around the world that decide to latch onto this as an excuse to tax the shit out of the people that are just trying to survive type thing.
They're trying to stop us from traveling.
Yeah.
They're trying to stop us from buying new clothes, from
Yeah.
using gas stoves.
Right.
This is all insane, and it's all based on lies. I know it is.
Yep.
I don't know the science of that, but I guarantee you it's not what they say it is.
If it walks like a duck, it must be a goose.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And then you get, I mean, our lifestyles too, right? We're so used to convenience like that. We buy so many things that are actually garbage for a temporary use type thing. And then it's a disposable thing that winds up in our landfills, right? We're all guilty of it. I am, a lot of that stuff is not necessary. I think that's a way of starting to curtail the contributions that we do put into the planet, right? Is to, change our habits and our behaviors like that. For the government to get into things like that, no, we don't need you guys to tell us what to do. But you can influence us. If you think, we should maybe try this, but don't force it down our throats here. Okay, maybe we might cooperate with you if you approach it a little differently. Right? Don't say, well, we're going to mandate this, make it a law type thing at risk of a penalty of a fine like that, and we're going to take your money like that because you went ahead and bought a plastic bag from somewhere. Right? If people would just get a conscience like that and do their best, and a lot of people do. I mean, a hell of a lot of people do make an effort to try and green up their attitudes and green up their lifestyles a little bit. Well, promote that.
Especially if they're a wealthy country.
Mm-hmm. You think about the amount of junk that goes into our landfills, probably 80% of it's unnecessary. Recycle, recycle, recycle. Yeah, so we've got green bins and blue bins and black bins in our neighborhoods, right? And we pay for them every month. Like that, the convenience of being able to have our garbage picked up at the end of the driveway type thing. In my case, yep, every neighborhood. Why buy the stuff in the first place, right? Clamshells, right? One-use items like that because, you like to buy some bakery stuff like that, throw away the clamshell. Plastic, right? That's not necessary. Take your own container. I'm okay with that in theory, right? I'm not okay with the government mandating and forcing it down our throats and then profiteering off of it as well, by misinformation to us there when just tell us what you think we should do like that and leave it up to us, right? We're not stupid people, but don't go ahead and force it down our throats there so you can profit off of it.
Well, it's just they've been caught in so many lies now. Right? Like the mainstream media is telling all these lies. The politicians are telling all these lies. And then they're being exposed. They're being exposed by podcasters online.
Mm-hmm.
And there hasn't been a corrective action yet. But I have looked into a lot of things that have been put out there by the governments and by the media. And I've fact checked and I've found out what the truth was about various situations, particularly to do with all of this critical race theory and this transgenderism and all this stuff. These are brutal lies.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was doing the podcast before, I found out that pretty much every story of a race-based police shooting was not race-based at all. That was pure media spin, and that was used by the government for political ends.
It's called media sensationalism, right?
Mm-hmm. And it created, from those events. And I know this is coming out of Marxism. Essentially, it's coming out of an ideology where we're going to use this in order to.
It's the weaponization of media.
Yeah.
For what purpose and for whose purpose, right? It's not telling the story, right? You've got some new rookie journalist coming out there like that with a camera crew and like that. They're
but there's a narrative
snippet of a story on something like that. There, they were told what to say, were told what questions to ask like that, as opposed to, is this relevant? To what?
There's a narrative though, and I swear to God, it's top down in these big media companies, right? And I don't know why they're pushing it. I know that this stuff comes out of the
because the more ratings they get, the more advertising revenue they get, right? And we're talking into the billions of dollars in the United States, right? Yeah. So it becomes what do you call it? Part of the fabric of their existence. There's some pretty good esteemed journalists like that have left their posts like that there because they got sucked into it, including in Canada here, right? But when you have the leadership funding the media, when you have your government funding the media like they do in Canada, like, the two big ones like that, they're get some serious subsidies from the federal government, which is our tax dollars. They're told to say what they want us to hear.
Yeah, I understand why Trudeau's government is going communist, because Trudeau loves communism.
His father was embraced it. Good friends with Fidel Castro. Let's go down that rabbit hole. This apparent communistic mentality that Trudeau has by being the controller in chief. What he says goes.
Well, because he's a sympathizer of communist philosophy. But you see this the world over, though. The governments are doing this, and it's coming out of the the universities.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming out of the universities. Professors lean left.
Yeah.
Naturally, but now it's Marxism, like far left ideology has a complete stranglehold on the university.
So where did that come from? Because that didn't come from Trudeau. He's not responsible for all of that.
That's what I'm saying.
He fell right into it, right?
Well, I think he
mastered
believes
it.
it. I think he is Marxist. I think that's his fundamental orientation, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because Castro's his dad. Maybe it's because his dad was.
It'd be interesting to see what that profiler said about those, facial recognition points they said like that. There, they compared Fidel Castro's face to Justin Trudeau's face. There, as Justin Trudeau's a grown man, was he 50 something rather now?
Yeah,
and I think that Fidel Castro at the same time was around the same age.
Yeah,
so it was really interesting, and that was quickly seen on the internet a while back. There, I saw that like that, and I haven't seen it since. Right, so it must have been pulled down. Why? That leaves a big question mark in the eyes of a lot of cynical people. Right?
he was definitely Castro's son.
Sure looks like.
I read an article that made a strong case.
Yeah, well, there's also pictures out there with Fidel holding a baby that was Justin.
It's not just the picture; it's the timing lines up. She was there.
Pierre Trudeau, Margaret Trudeau, and Fidel Castro and a baby are all in that same picture. That flooded the
She's
internet.
staring at Castro with these eyes,
with loving eyes, like,
Yeah.
This is our son. Oh, isn't he a beautiful little boy? He's just like
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
And so people are Marxist for various reasons. And, I don't so much mind if we have a Marxist leader, as long as there's checks and balances in place to make sure that a conservative leader gets in when he fucks up the economy, because that's what Marxism does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Justin Trudeau there, just that was just handed to him on a silver platter there, because I'm almost certain. I mean, I've never met the man, and I don't think I want to, because I'd probably be like that guy in Brampton, Ontario, say, I don't want to shake your hand. No, you're an embarrassment to this country, my friend, in my opinion. And that's shared by half the population now. Let's be safe on that. A lot of people have got some serious question marks about this, right? I mean, I don't know everything. I don't know whether I'm right, wrong, or otherwise like that, but that's an opinion I have there until I'm told otherwise. There, I'll go with that. But I will say this is just complete common sense to me, that if he was under the quote unquote guidance of his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who incidentally I share a birthday with, I can see how later on in life there that Pierre would have told his son before he passed, this is what I believed in there. And so someday, son, you could be the prime minister there, and you can carry on,
He takes after his father.
Pierre may very well have
He's a lesser man, but
passed on his desires and his agenda or whatever like that there to his son, and Justin never forgot it. But he went about his own life there, and never forgot, right?
But the point is, these universities, they're full of Marxists.
Yeah.
And they're genuine Marxists, a lot of them. I think a lot of them aren't, and a lot of them are scared into silence.
Mm-hmm.
But and then there's the factor of Chinese money coming in and funding
and Indian money.
Chinese because it's communist.
Yeah.
But pushing that stuff, right? And now from the universities out into HR departments everywhere, and the governments, and now the DEI agenda is everywhere, and that's pure Marxism. So equity.
So where does Marxism come from originally?
Well, socialist philosophy, and then Marx was the theorist that put it all into formulation.
Karl Marx, right? Yeah.
Karl Marx, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a deeply resentment-driven thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It has no place in democracies. It doesn't, and whoever allowed that in there, they should have been stopped dead in their tracks, because we had a good thing going back in the days when we were.
Well, they don't call it Marxism. If you say DEI is Marxist to a DEI advocate, they'll say no, that's not true. It's not.
There used to be a phrase used in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. That's a horse of a different color.
What it is exactly? It's like a genetic variation of Marxism attacking the West right now.
Call it something.
And so, I mean, equity is pretty much like unambiguously Marxist idea. It's that everyone should have an equal outcome. Mm-hmm. Everybody, black, white, man, woman, transgender, gay, straight. We should all have the same job,
proportionate to the effort they put in to get to that position,
and make the same amount of money. Everybody should be equal. That's a bad idea. It's not possible. Mm-hmm. And that's resentment that drives that. I should have what he has. So let's all rise up and take what they have. And it's by force.
And you think that's a bad model?
It's a terrible model.
So isn't that the model that the government's using against us?
It is.
They should have all the money, and we should have nothing.
Every corporation.
We should own nothing and be happy about that.
That is the WEF.
Who says that that's the way it should be?
That's on their website. And that is Justin Trudeau graduated from their program, and so did
You're talking the WEF?
half his cabinet, the
The
WEF.
World Economic Forum, the WHO, the
They say you will,
Illuminatis and all that.
in 2030 you will own nothing and you will be happy. That is a communist idea, like a total revolution of our
that theory
system.
can pound salt as far as I'm concerned.
That theory has been proven to cause poverty, to crush the human spirit, and to cause mass murder. It's a murderous philosophy. Everywhere it's been implemented. Not everywhere, but it never really it doesn't work in practice.
Well, that becomes now what was I saying before? The three stages of conflict: man versus nature, man versus man, man versus himself. The three stages of conflict. This is what's playing out here. So you've got this ideology there. It's a Marxist ideology or communist ideology or World Economic Forum thinks that, okay, well, we're the elites type thing. We made it to this point where we can congregate there into our elite little groups in Davos, Switzerland, and we can just start determine and chart the destiny of the rest of society in the world to serve what we think is the way things should be.
That everyone should be equal, which is against human nature and psychology.
Nobody ever will be equal. God didn't make us all equal, right? But he made us to be, to try to be compatible with each other, to take everybody, as they are.
When they say we're all equal in the eyes of God, it means that we're all infinitely valuable as individuals. Like a human life is infinitely valuable.
That's right.
And you shouldn't just, you look at a person as having value. They're not just, you can't just kill a person because they're...
Yeah. You know what? But even before civilization, there really took a hold type thing there, and democratic countries took a hold. Even back in the old days, when religions were, emerging like that, thousands and thousands of years ago, you always had this stages of conflict thing going on. Then one religion thought they were better than another, right? Our shit don't stink, sort of thing like that. So we'll push our agenda down on you. Sorry, sucks to be you, right? That hasn't changed when you think about it in modern times right now, right? So, but I think that global societies have lost focus of what their quote unquote roles and responsibilities are as human beings. It doesn't matter what color they are or where they came from or where they grew up or whatever. They're all the same, right? Different colors maybe. So what, right? But for some select individuals in those communities or those groups or those ethnicities like that to think that, okay, well, I'm going to rise above my ordinary peon people because I think that I'm more important than they are and I want to play God. I'm going to be God. I'm going to be your leader. I'm going to control this and the other. You will do what I say, right? That can be for good reasons, can be a good thing if it's for good reasons, but if it's self-serving for those quote-unquote individuals that think they have a right to control their own fellow citizens and their own fellow human beings type thing, that's where you got to draw the line, and that got missed so often. Of course, then fast forward to now, you have groups of people that get up and say, hey, we're not going to put up with this anymore, and they get shut down. Or all of a sudden people disappear because they decide to stand up against what's wrong, right? Against the powerful, and they disappear. I mean, we've heard those stories in Russia. We've heard it over in Iran. We've heard it over in the Middle East. We've heard it even in South America, right? China. Yeah, I mean, that is a fear that's always there, right? If you want to become a fly in the ointment, if you have a strong opinion against something and you feel righteous about it, someone's going to disagree with you.
We had a society where that was not happening. And if that's going to start happening, then we've gone way too far in a tyrannical direction.
But that's what they're saying is happening to our society now. That's the unspoken word in some circles right now. And in other circles, it is being spoken about because people don't have much left over, so they're just calling it out the way it is, right? We're going down a dark road here.
We are.
Right? And we need, it's generations like the one I'm from, like that's still here, still viable type thing in some ways.
Yeah.
That we should unite and stop it.
And from
the influence that we've got and the respect that we've built.
Yeah. But from this idea that we all have infinite dignity, each individual has infinite dignity, comes the idea that we shouldn't have tyrants. We shouldn't accept tyranny.
All the current leaders right out there, any one of them that might think that they're God and that they can do what they want and not what the people want, forgetting that they are there to represent the people and to manage the people and to respect the people that put them there, who support them. You don't turn that around and throw it back in their face and say, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want there and you guys are going to do what I say you're going to do. What's that called? Tyranny, right? And where did that go in the era of Caesars? Marco Polo days like that there, where you had one supreme leader type thing. North Korea. Let's use that for a modern example like that, close society like that, led by some dictator. We don't know what the story is over there, but it sure looks like something coming back from thousands of years ago, right? In modern times. But where did that go, right? The Roman Empire, it finally collapsed, right? Because the people finally rose up, right? They put up with it for so long, being treated like garbage. Render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Was that a biblical line at some point?
Mm-hmm. And what to God what belongs to God.
And render unto God what belongs to God, yeah. Well, Caesar didn't deserve anything unless God said so. You know? Who is God? Who is God? Is God a he or a she?
Neither.
Right? Let's just say that there's a God.
We characterize him as male.
Yeah, we do. Somebody said that. Yeah, we don't know. God
But
might
when
be a
you
female.
when you dig into the concept of God, it recedes from like being defined as a being.
Yeah,
So
there's not one single solitary human being that's gone to the great beyond like that and to come back to say, or even sent a postcard for that matter, or even a digital signal like that to say, hey, you know what? God's real. It's always been a belief system, right? Everything is based on belief. You know, there's people out there. Jesus was a historical figure, right? Very impactful in our time period, even now. You know, the resurrection of Jesus coming back into our world, into our life like that, it's still a mindset, but it might be real. But who's to say that it's not? Nobody. There is no concrete proof. It's all a belief system. And you'll get these people that'll die saying, I have seen the Lord. You know, I've seen Jesus. I walk with. No, you haven't. You might, if you've gone to heaven, you might see him there, right? It would be an absolute divine, miracle's not the word, event. And they say, even my buddy who's completely Christian, and he's a good guy, you know, but he's so strong believer type thing, you know. I argue with him about this all the time, you know. Oh yeah, Jesus is coming back. Oh, do you know what bus he's going to be on? What plane? Like when? Oh, he's going to be here soon like that. Do you know what? Anywhere in the world, you've been hearing that line for thousands of years. Oh, Jesus is coming back to save our sins again, you know, to save our souls, right? We've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Anybody who's cynical out there has reason to be cynical type thing there. So you know what? I think the wisdom that goes with that is that, you know, believe what you want to believe. I've got my own opinion and I think it's the middle of the road. It's a safe place to be. I come to it in my life, right? It doesn't matter what and who you believe in type thing there, as long as you're happy with that, right? It goes for any culture, right? They have a right to believe in what they want to believe in, right? Nobody knows the truth.
unless it's evil.
Unless it's, well, yeah,
Because
evil
if
is
it's-
obviously wrong.
If they want to kill people, then they should be stopped. And why? Like, what's my moral grounding? My moral grounding is that there is a highest good, which I call God, and that we should all orient ourselves towards that highest good. And everything we do, we should always keep in mind that highest good, and we should always try to be the best we can be the God within ourselves.
Yeah. Nobody has a right to kill somebody else there for their own gain.
Yeah.
But if it's a self-defense matter, right, you know, like you're going to protect your wife and your kids and your family and whatever to that effect like that, and somebody is hell-bent for leather on taking you out, you know, violently, you know, now we got guns out there in the big world, right? And back in the days, they had, slings and bows and arrows and slingshots and all that. No, I mean, if you got to kill to save your family, I mean, that's what you got to do. Try not to.
We do sometimes.
I'd rather beat the living shit out of somebody that's going to try and take my daughter or my kid or my wife or girlfriend or whatever away.
Yeah.
Like that. I'd rather beat the shit out of that and not kill them.
Yeah.
But if they're going to come at me with a gun or a knife like that, it's fair game, right?
We can't really be Christ, right?
Yeah,
Like you
that's
said,
right. That's
if
right.
everyone was Christ, the human race would be over because he didn't have any kids.
Yeah.
According to the legend. So, but we follow his example, as this guy was pretty damn as close to perfectly moral as you could be. So then we look at him and we worship him. We worship the goodness of him. And then we, as people who are married and who are in the conflict of the world, we have to do the best we can to follow his moral example and his moral prescriptions. And, you know, the Judeo-Christian tradition, that's where I come from. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to be Christian or everyone needs to believe in God even, but what am I saying? I'm saying seek the truth, right? And we might not ever get it perfectly. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to kill the division. You're trying to say people should believe what they.
You know, it's the absolute. You know, in any part of life like that, if you just find the middle of the road of something, you may have an extreme view on this side. You may have an extreme view on this side there, but if you find harmony in between like that and settle for it,
harmony's good.
Yeah, if you just settle for, well, I don't know enough about this, and I don't know about this, I'm just going to settle like that and move on to something else, right? that's the answer to peace. That's the solution to having a peaceful life in some ways, right? And when you're forced to deal with adversity like that, or pain or suffering, or traumas and stuff, I mean, you have to make a little extra work like that, try and find yourself back to that middle where the balance is, or find balance there and be in the middle, and be centrist there, and your comfort zone and your comfort level as an individual. And then I guess the challenge and the trick is to maintain that posture, whichever way that is, right? Mm-hmm. As far as, whatever religion you want to believe in, or whatever, figurehead of your faith.
Or whatever idol you want to worship.
Or whatever idol you want to worship, type thing like that, as long as it's a righteous one, then go for it.
I meant that tongue in cheek. I think there's a lot of bad idol worship.
I was going to ask you like that. Do you know if JT, I've never heard JT ever mention that he follows the rules of God.
He's not a religious man at all. He's a Marxist, and Marxists, they believe in.
But why does he think he's God then?
Is a utopian social arrangement.
Yeah. So no, I've got to say this. There's a distinction between Canada and the United States like that. Basically, there's not that much difference, but there is a distinction, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is. But it seems to be that the United States, there in certain parts of it that we see all the time, there is more reverts back to being faith-based as a country and as the foundation of their governments, than we are in Canada, right? And yet we are directly formerly a colony of the Brits. And what's interesting, I find, is that when Trudeau became the Prime Minister, Jr. became the Prime Minister, when he swore his oath of office in 2015, he didn't swear, allegiance to Canada as a country. He swore it to the Queen. I find that interesting. Peter Mansbridge was with him. Peter Mansbridge is a very esteemed journalist there. I got a lot of respect for him like that. And he's, I think, retired now. But they just put this out just a few weeks ago on CBC, on the internet, right? It was interesting to watch. But that struck me. It's like, our leaders should have an oath of office being sworn to Canada, right?
Our leaders should have allegiance to the people.
Exactly.
Not the Queen of England.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that he knows it. And I think that's why he thinks he can get away with we're just his play toys. It was the people from various different ethnicities in the old days, like, the Germans and the Ukrainians and the Vikings and the French Canadians, the Acadians that came and made this country. Then the Brits, us came in, the French, whatever. Our ancestors like that came in. We're the ones that made this country and started the process, right? Now everybody else is coming from everywhere else. We already did the work. I think we should be respected.
Yeah.
By our institutions.
We never had the same kind of revolution as they had in the States.
No, that's true. But there was, the War of 1812, right? Plains of Abraham, all that stuff like that, that we had participation in. Definitely.
Yeah.
Where the Canadian military get some of their credentials from, right, is the involvement in being righteous and their participation to keep the peace in the world in the day, whenever that was. I mean, if I really sat there and thought about it, I think I could come up with, I didn't do too bad in history like that, but it was interesting too, right?
Let's talk more about that.
Yeah. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right. We're out of time.
Okay.
All right, Chris. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
you coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, this is very interesting.
Yeah. Let's do it again.
Yeah, sure.